Well, hello, everybody. Welcome in. Welcome to our summit here today. I'm so glad to be able to present today systems and processes for time-strapped CEOs to be able to gain back some time and have some visibility strategies to really help them to maximize their time when it comes time to leadership and visibility. Christine Campbell Rapin
Rapin.
is an energetic, talent like it is business advisor, mentor, consultant, speaker, and a three times international best-selling author. She has supported over 400 companies to create a combined revenue of more than $1 billion and believes that growth can be elegantly simple when you focus on the three non-negotiable business foundations that build a client growth engine. Christine, welcome to the summit here today.
Thank you. I'm excited to play together for the first time.
Yeah. So, Christine, what are the two factors that predict revenue in the next 90 days? Let's just get right into it.
Let's jump right in. So most people run their business with about a million tabs open, trying to do a million things, and it's all utter distraction. There's only two things that really matter. And until you have the business you want, which means the revenue you want, the amount of clients you want, the kind of clients you want, selling the programs that you want, you need to stop with the BS. So number one, people don't tell you this, but your business is built on strangers. Always. This isn't a problem you solve once. This isn't a problem you solve just at the beginning. This is the problem of business. And it's important to understand that a buyer is not the same as a looky-loo. A buyer is not the same as a general audience. And we got to nail who the next buyer is because they're not the same as your current client. And so the first thing is how many people you are meeting that have the potential to be a buyer for you and what is their current buying urgency. And the second piece to that is money will only move hands if you make the offer and you do not control how people respond to an offer, but you control how many offers are going out. And if you want to create more stability, I will tell you, you're not meeting enough people and you're not making enough offers. And therefore you're on the roller coaster you created.
Right.
You want off it? Let's do this better.
Right? How many people, like, how often do you get resistance when you tell people you have to make more offers or you have to make a offer?
A
Like,
lot.
what's the resistance? What is that like?
Can I do anything else but? Is the
Yeah.
answer I get a lot until they're my clients and they're like, I'm excited to tell you how many offers I made today. And we track this. And I said, like, everybody has zeros. Like, we take time out of our business, we get off our mojo, we do get into our choiceful distractions, but this is business 101 math. And people are like, but I bought into this, belief that if I just post on social media, I'll make sales. And that people will just randomly trip over themselves and throw open their wallet and it rains down money at you. And it's really an expectation people have. And I say, what's your number one priority today? And I ask this in every room I'm in. And I get everything from, I need to update my logo. I need to change my website. I'm working on a book that will come out in 2029. I, spent my day at networking events. I did everything. And I'm like, did you make any offers today? And they're like, oh, well, but my things will lead to an offer. And I'm like, bull crap. That's a someday plan. And can you afford a someday plan? They're like, no, I need clients today. I'm like, then do the simpler thing first. And you must manage the discomfort of learning to get great at sales because sales solves everything.
And there's discomfort in everything as we're learning. I referenced earlier, you have to, if you're a baby, you have to learn to walk before you run. There's discomfort in everything. How do you help manage your clients through that discomfort?
So the first thing we get really clear on a system of business. So we talk about what do you do the first hour of every day? And I have a really structured thing that I look with and we build with clients of ours. And it's like, we have to manage the money. Like Don't get weird about anything other than your business is about the exchange of money. You can decide how much money. Money is a thing. It doesn't judge you. It doesn't shame you. It's just a tool, but money is not an optional conversation in my space. And Dr. Shad, who's been in my space for a while, sometimes she's like, this is not, Christine's going to come at this hard. I am. And so I say, the first thing you want to do is check your bank first thing in the morning. You need to know where your money's at. What came in, what went out, where are you standing from a cash flow perspective? Because most businesses die because of cash flow.
Right.
Second thing we look at is like what happened with the offers that we expected contracts to go out. The things I said I would send proposals. If we do proposals in our business style, did the proposals go out? Then we're looking at who do I need to follow up with that is closest to money. And I make sure I have a clear call plan. Notice I said call, not email, not voicemail, call.
Right.
Call plan to actually talk to them. And I said, we look after all of our short path to money before we go check our email, before we start the social media scroll, before we do the do of client delivery, because current clients are already decided. Your number one priority is to get in front of those that are deciding. And deciding is everything. And so we help people build systems so that they know how to not let their day go astray and how to set really clear intentions around what is my job as the business owner.
Right.
Not,
Right.
You don't get paid to show up. You get paid to move the needle. So what are your needle movers? And are you disciplined with them? And if you're not disciplined, welcome to the human race. Most of us are not. So equip yourself with systems, tools, rooms, and communities that will hold you to the fire, because that is a system for success and everyone has lots of data on that.
Love that. Yeah, starting your day with the money piece. I So many people are so afraid of money. What do you say to those people that are afraid to look at that? Either they don't understand it, their P&L is a mess, they just fired their bookkeeper, they've never, how many clients? I had one client, $4.5 million renovation contractor, and he never did any kind of books. Never. So what do you say to people when they're afraid for whatever reason to look at their books?
Well, first, I am very clear. This is not optional. Like, I'm just very clear. This is not optional. You are going to be a business owner, which means you have fiscal responsibility for everybody in your org. It's a choice. So if you choose to be in business, I'm sorry, this is not optional. If you don't have the knowledge, no problem. Nobody starts business. Okay, very few, I might be the exception to this rule. Very few people start the world of entrepreneurship with all the business skills they will need, but not having the business skills is lazy, and you must equip yourself with the answers you need. Mm-hmm. And knowledge, truthfully, is the laziest excuse, and I don't let my clients play there. If you don't know how to read the P&L, no problem. But if you say that 5 years into your business, that's on you. Mm-hmm. And the team that you hired, because they should not have let you just loosey-goosey that. You need to build the skills. You need to understand that while you can outsource, you cannot abdicate responsibility for it. Because your job as the leader is to make the best decisions with informed knowledge for the better of the most people you look after. And that does not mean they will all be popular, but that's the responsibility of ownership. And that's the choice you made. And so there is a difference between choosing to be a solopreneur where you can, put your head in the sand. And I have lots of clients that come to me and they're like, I've been in business 8 years or 6 years. And they're like, I don't look at my numbers. I'm like, not under my watch. And they're like, I look at my numbers every month now. I'm like, bring up your dashboard. Let's talk about what you're focusing on. I have a client of mine who had come into a session 2 weeks ago, and she's like, I haven't made enough offers in the last 2 weeks, and I'm aware of it. And I'm like, how amazing. She's like, I've never done this in 8 years, but holy crap, I'm aware I have a problem. I'm like, what are you doing? Christine, here's the 5 things I'm doing this week to correct the problem. I'm like, gold star. You're running your business like a business owner. And she's like, this feels amazing. And I am less stressed. And I never sell my services under the idea that, you're going to sleep better at night, but you are, because I I will teach you what you don't know as needed, but I will also make sure that you understand, because the biggest legacy of working with a mentor is that you can navigate any decision that is needed, and decision making is the game.
It
There's no
is.
excuse for that. It's just,
Yeah.
it is. So when people say I don't love money, and I said, okay, I get it. But the money is not there to shame you. The money is not there to judge you. The numbers just are. And more importantly, where do you want them to move to, and how will we get there?
So many people have shame around money.
Sure.
So many. I can't make that because it was more than my father ever made. Right?
Sure.
Um, yeah, and I'm sure that those people aren't your clients,
But it
but
is about
just,
reframing it. And let me just
yep.
share a story of, because I had a client of mine who, when she hired me, she was during COVID. So take this back a few years. She had COVID money from the US government. And she's like, I don't ever want to make in my business more than $100,000. I'm like, I just need you to do the business math on what $100,000 is for an employee versus an employer, because the math is not the same.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't actually keep as much as an employer as you do as an employee. So she said, I never want to make a lot of money because I don't want to pay tax. Again, that's bias. That's been a bias that she came up with. And it's, we don't want to make a lot of money. And what will the neighbors think? And she works in the not-for-profit sector. And I said, the biggest misnomer in not-for-profit is that the goal is to be broke. I'm like, no, not-for-profits should make enormous amounts of money because they do social good with that check.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want you to be a broke not-for-profit. I want you to have money to be able to provide services, and we need to be great fundraisers, great business owners, and make those dollars stretch. And I said, I don't need you to want $1 million business, but tell me your favorite charity. And show me what the name of it was. I said, how do you support them today? She said, we donate and volunteer five business days a year of services in kind to this not-for-profit she cares for. I said, well, so you know a bit about the business then? She said, yeah. I said, what's the operating budget? She said, it's $230,000. I said, what if you could create enough revenue in your business that you could give $230,000 to support the not-for-profit you really care about? Would you want to create more than $70,000? She's like, yes. And I'm like, let's do that. Because it was not about the creation of money. It's what will I use it for?
Mm-hmm.
And if you can get your head around, I choose to use it for employing other people, employing myself, giving back to my charity, the dynamics around the shame shift. And you can always find a positive way to use money and break the cycle. But money just is the tool. I don't have a single client, myself included, that is motivated by money, but we talk about money as a resource, as is bandwidth, human compassion, and presence is value.
And coming back to the example of the client that I'd given earlier,
Mm-hmm.
he wanted to be able to make enough money to give it away. Now, he had some very specific thoughts on where he wanted to give it, but it gave him the permission to fully show up in his brilliance and in his business and implement the systems that supported that.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And what a win, right?
A
And
huge
how
win.
does he fall back in love with his business? Through that.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So, Christine, what are three non-negotiables business owners must focus on to create repeatable success?
Well, these are the pillars that every business on the planet needs. And this is what my expertise in that $1 billion in the river mirror came from. You have to understand these foundations because they're about knowing the bricks of the foundation so that you can play the game any way you like. The first is you must understand what a buyer is, and you must be able to spot who is your buyer. And that's about being able to be looking every day for the opportunity and intersect it and be opportunistic with it. Most people think a buyer is the avatar, the ideal client profile. They're 50, they live at this part of the country, they make this much money, here's their habits and social cues. That is a helpful thing in some elements in marketing, but finding your next client, it is zero use. Because chances are if you just use your observational skills, the guy in front of you at Starbucks is actually your next client if you just paid attention. or the table next to you, or the person at the lineup at the airport, or the person in your lounge. Like, you have to really shift your mind. But we have to know what a buyer is. And to be clear, the biggest thing that buyers are decision makers.
Mhm.
Okay. So you're looking for people that want a different outcome and are deciding about how to get it. And you are one vehicle that gets them there. So the first piece is, who's the buyer? And are you able to really see it, feel it, touch it, and move it, spot it quickly? Second thing is that it is about movement. Everybody has marketing requirements in their business. There's a million different marketing tactics out there. If you've heard about the tactic works. If it doesn't work for you, it's not the tactic that's the problem. The tactic works, or you wouldn't have heard about it. But you must think about your lane of marketing. One lane, preferably, until you're successful. Don't add complexity unnecessarily. But taking somebody in the way you choose to market that moves them from curious to paid client. And most people don't realize how slow that is. And I don't mean speed, I mean steps. Google would tell you people will research 7 to 12 touch points before they're visible, and then to another 7 to 20 touch points before they make a decision. So if you only take them to the dance once, it's not surprising they're not going to get to a decision quickly, or you're going to make a decision in your favor. So you have to be clear, how do you keep a human who's highly distracted moving forward, certain in their outcome, at a pace that all builds confidence? So what's your lane, and how is your strategy running? And is it congruent? Because anytime that you become, incongruent, the audience outside of you has a trust break and they just shop elsewhere. They're trying to decide, am I in the right room? Everything we do reaffirms I'm moving forward, and we're playing to the psychological wiring of our human DNA that says, if I make enough affirmations, I'm almost always predicted to make another. So we want to move them predictably. Yes, 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 micro buy-in, till they say, tell me about your program. Kind of curious because I want that result. And I think you know what you're talking about. Great, let's have that conversation. The third non-negotiable is the offer. The offer has to be positioned in the lens of the buyer. Too many business owners do it in their own justification. I'm nervous, so let me tell you about the 12-week program that includes 3 of this, 7 of that, 2 bobcats, a unicorn, and a lollipop. And they're like, that sounds like work. I'm going to just think on it. And they don't make a decision. And all of that might be needed, but it doesn't help a decision-making behavior move. So you've got to think about, what do they value? What do they need to see, feel, experience in order to say, that makes smart money decisions for me? And you have to be sure that you're a must hire and not just a likable expert. And too many people get caught in this, I'm a likable expert, I'm scared to talk about money, I never want to make an offer. And I said, then quit the field, because you will never be a business owner who has stability. Could you win? 100%. But I want businesses to be stable, predictable. I want you to have paychecks every month. I want you to be able to pay your staff in every payroll period. And the only way you do that is if you have consistent clients, because sales solves everything. And so I think those principles, so who's the buyer, how do we move them, and what makes you the must hire in the eye of the buyer, are not optional business principles. They're the foundations of your repeating success story.
So, I'm hearing a couple of repeating things here. When we were talking about the offer being positioned in the eye of the buyer, I heard you affirm something that Wendy said, that quite often the person doing the selling dumps too much information
Yes.
too fast, right?
Yes.
So I love that we've got that
Congruency.
congruency there. Yeah.
It's true. And we often rush the sale, and we want to vomit the offer because we just want it out there. And I think when you're in the sales process, and that's what we lead people to, we actually help you. We listen to calls, we do the calls preps with you, we actually make you get the yes. But a big part of the challenge is, you have to ask this thing first. Do you want an offer? And if you make an offer, are you prepared to make a decision? Because if not, the money's not relevant. And everyone's like, but I just want to tell the number. I'm like, Why? That's information gathering. That's not a buying decision. And if you want information about my pricing, my website's available. It's public knowledge. But when you're in the conversation of an offer, I am here to help you make a decision. I'm not here to judge which outcome you choose.
Is there some really high level, some specific steps or specific structures that must be incorporated into every offer?
Yeah, the biggest thing is you have to get really clear, and this is a sequencing problem for many. When we're making an offer, the first thing we want to talk about typically as a business owner is the how. We want to show you our brilliance, talk about our frameworks, talk about the how. And the how is important, but not nearly as important as we put it. And it's honestly not the most important thing you lead with. So I tell people to move a client from curious to paid client. The first thing you need to know, get really clear on what is going on. What do they want? What's the gap? What's the desire? What's the shortfall? What? Because that's the pattern you're spotting for. And your job is very simple. Spark curiosity of what's on the other side of the want, the have. And then they're going to say, well, I want that. And you're going, I know how to get it. They're like, do you? Yes. They don't need you to then vomit, to the point which Wendy said. You don't need to vomit the whole PhD against an undergrad student. You can say, I know a framework and my clients win predictably with it. How much information do you want to know about the how? I just want to know there is one. Okay, cool. I know there is a how. Then we talk about who do you need to be to get that? Who might help you? I must be inserting myself as the must hire here. Who has it? And how will that feel? And then we need to lead to the last piece of the question, which is, why do you want it? Why would you delay having what you want? And why should I be chosen? And we need to make sure that this is clear, because when we're working through the conversation, it's discovery, which is, what do you want? What's the gap? What would make it different for you? Can I share with you my recommendation? Are you open to that? Yes, I'm open to receiving it. What do you like about my recommendation? And they respond to telling you exactly what they love about you. Pay attention. Then you're like, is having that worthwhile? How worthwhile? Is it worthwhile enough that if I gave you an offer, you'd make a decision? And if you get the buy-in, you're saying, great, so this is my recommendation. This is what the investment is. What questions do you have? How would you like to pay for it? And you're walking them through a very systematic process that is very natural in its conversation, because your goal is to support somebody to an outcome. But the problem most business owners have is we lean into how and features instead of taking somebody through an understanding of, I see you. I am a guide to help you get the result. I'm not the result itself. I'm just the vehicle. And we have to shift our language around that. And when we do, money's never weird and decisions are never personal, and yet all the impact is front row.
That's amazing. I've never, to be completely honest with you, I have never heard anybody put it that way. I see you. It's completely true.
Mm-hmm.
And have I used other phrasing that was probably more complicated? Absolutely. But this
You can take it, use it.
thank you. This comes back to, you have some elegantly simple foundations that are the key to sustainable success.
Yeah, and scalable success. And I think it's been such a disservice. The marketing spin of the last 8 years has sold you complexity, and you bought it. And you're exhausted. And when people say to me, I'm so overwhelmed, I don't know where to start, just tell me how. I said, okay, 2 things. You actually know how, 9 times out of 10. So how's not the problem. And when you tell me you're overwhelmed, all I hear is, I'm not winning. Because when we build momentum, it's micro wins. That's that journey from like 1 to 30 steps that we take. It self-fulfills its prophecy. If we are winning, we have dopamine and we're naturally going to go for the next win. I said, overwhelm is a choice of delayed decision making. So how do I help you make better decisions and support your win? And if you
Amazing.
win, you can choose your speed. You can choose how much you want to create financially, how many clients you want to serve. And that's ultimately what you set out to as an entrepreneur. You wanted the control. I said, that's how you get it. And they're all like, how will I win? I said, taking messy action. I'll hold your hand. You're going to manage the discomfort. Is it going to be things you will not do all the things you want? But I always challenge my clients and I challenge my peers and I challenge myself. Why is it worth it? Why are you here at the table? Tap in. Let's go. Nothing is easier by imagining the doom and gloom of not taking action. 9 times out of 10, whatever you imagine is never going to happen. And if it does and you spot it and you wink at it and go, oh, hi, nice to see you, boogeyman. Let's keep moving.
There you are. Christine, amazing. I love this. Again, some language that although I've used other versions of it, just the simplicity of it, I learned a lot today. Thank you for that.
Love it.
Christine, can you tell us a little bit about your VIP offer?
So I want people to know that selling's not optional. It is the heartbeat of your business. And selling is something that people think they'll get good at eventually. I'd like you to get good at it today. And so I run an interactive workshop, and actually Dr. Charlotte's been in it. It's called Turn On Your Client Waterfall. And we want to take you through the sales piece of it. What can you do to build trust and human relationships that help you get to the yes faster to help a client win more often, predictably? So we've got a whole collection of trainings. They're bite-sized in their nature, and they will all stack. I want you to hear and get surrounded by people who win in sales, who will show you how simple it is. Conversation is the fastest path to cash. Your next client is searching today. Go make the offer today. Get visible today. Introduce yourself today and tell me when you're winning, because I will cheer you all the way to the finish line.
Amazing. Thank you so much for electing to be here, Christine. It's been wonderful
My
getting
pleasure.
to know you
Thanks
better.
for having me.
You're welcome.